Hello everybody, I'm here, Crisis with K, with a haul around the world, and this one is all about FOMO and ROMO, fear of missing out and regret of missing out. Now, if you are a frequent viewer of this channel, you know that a few months ago I did a list of all of my books that I feared missing out on or regretted missing out on. Now, that was just supposed to be a fun lark, a brief bit of content, but it has taken over my shopping habits and it has resulted in me hauling much more than I typically usually haul within any quarter or even a month. So don't adjust your screens. You're having a crisis. I'm having a crisis. It is iCrisis, and I'm here to talk about what I have deemed to be far too many omnibuses. I don't need them. I don't know when I'm going to read them. I'm not encouraging this behavior, but this was because I feel as though I did a very definitive look of like, what am I really missing out on? What am I afraid is not going to come back into print? And I went and bought those. But this is only part one, which is mostly all the omnibuses, because then there's going to be part two, which is the non-omnibus stuff, some of which is still trickling into my home. So I'm going to say a few hellos to a few of our live viewers, and then we're just going to start digging through this pile. Super drop, the most regular of regulars, saying new crisis just dropped. It is indeed a crisis. Hungitist, who is the mod of the Discord server for the Omnibus Collectors Reddit, who I enjoy talking with throughout the week, was here at number 2 saying, I got notified too early. We go pretty early on the stream. Stephen Patterson, one of my supporters, saying FOMO is undefeated. And that is true. I am unable to defeat it. Yerna Pauls is here guessing 5 Hal Jordan statues. Look, if I ever come on this channel and I have a statues haul, that's when you need to actually have an intervention happen. There can't be a statues haul. Okay. Max saying, all of me, why not take... I don't actually know how that song goes, but it's from Philly native, or at least during his collegiate years, John Legend. And Ellen and Cedric are here asking if I bought the She book by, it's not Stanley Tucci, he's the actor, Billy Tucci. I may have teased such a thing in the thumbnail. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Comics Dude saying hello and asking if I participate in the IST Red Tag sale. We will see as we dig in. Mall360 loves the hauls, and not just because it rhymes with his name. Edwin Billiot, the dreaded FOMO. I hate it, but it can drive you to buy things you never planned on owning, and I know the site is of Edwin's collection, so I know that to be true. Lowe's Masters here and can't wait to see the haul. The FOMO is dangerous, and the retro guy says my haul recently is pretty much DC finest, baby. I mean, that goes without saying that my haul is always these beautiful DC finest. The show today was almost a DC finest show, but I just wanted a little bit more time for it to cook. The thing is, usually my hauls have a ton of DC finest in them because that is one of the main things that I collect. Oh, I realize I've been through the wrong microphone all this time. Hold on, please. But in this case, oh, that would be because my microphone's not plugged in. That would do the trick. In this case, now I probably sound totally different. In this case, I actually don't even have my regular haul. It hasn't arrived that has like my DC Finest and my Epics in it. It's literally just got to New Zealand last night. And so I was like, oh, should I wait to do the show? And then I looked at the pile of omnibuses and I said, no, we can just have a DC Finest and Epic haul in a little while. So tell me, please, if my volume is good and let me know. Jamie C saying hello to everyone, coming in thick and fast with the hauls. Yes, that is absolutely true. Lowe's Masters went to Canada for some special hauls. Let's see if we have... Oh, Jade Rabbit, I was just thinking of you last night. I just got the reprint of Spider-Verse and Spider-Genin. Shunter Navarro is here. Super Panda is here saying the FOMO is strong this week. 2 Spidey Omnis I want are almost out of stock everywhere. Speed Demon saying hello. Will this stream be an entry in the Hall of Fame? We will see, we will see. Put him Tame saying hello from South Queens. Wiccan saying hello to me from around the corner. James Abel, the Cerebro of the comic loving internet, is here as well. Kubo, who I've really been enjoying the comments of lately, as also Alan Ruba, who is actually secretly SUIBX. I finally have put that together. Monkhoss is here, and so many others, including Satyr and Sage, who I think we might have had for the first time last week, and I am so happy to see them back. And we got to get started. X by Degrees is here. Quetzal Gaming Network is here. Crisis Late. No, it is not a first. Richard B42 is here. Batmantha Kyoto to my friend from Auckland. Wasabi, who is another one of my supporters. Oh my gosh, so many, so many. I think I got most of the unique human beings, and if I did not, I'm sure I will see you over the course of the stream. Okay, and the reason I was late today is this hair right here. Sometimes this lucky thing happens, and you just got to lean into it. And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna lean in and try to preserve this perfect curl for the show, and I think it turned out okay. All right, let me move my guitar. So if you've never seen a haul stream before, I really like to talk about like what's in the books, why I bought the books. I very rarely haul something that I have not read at all, unless there is some historical interest in it. So I do get all of DC Finest and Epic collections because that's my way of having an archive of all of Marvel and DC. I do sometimes blind buy Golden Age stuff because there's really no other way to read it. And I will sometimes blind buy stuff if there's just no good way to read it digitally, because how would I read it digitally? But generally, my hauls are things that I've read all of, or at least read a little of. Let's see if I fulfill that today. And by the way, there's an after show after the show if you are watching live. The after show is where we can talk about things that are not the haul, my opinions on things. I actually need your help with something that I've left in the lead comment on the after show right now, and the link to that is in the description of this, but only while this video is live. Afterwards, it's only for patrons of Crushing Crisis. Okay, let's dig in, shall we? I'm gonna have to step off camera every time that I get the things because there's such a big pile. Okay, let's see. There's one more that goes with this one. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's start out with some indie faves. Wait, the after show is after the show? Confusing. Goodies, hello to those concrete graphic novels are amazing. They are not that expensive to get in the United States if you just set your eBay alerts and you're just patient. Like if you see one pop up for $50, do not buy it. They will come up cheaper. But to get them in New Zealand, we'll talk more about that. But there is a new concrete series coming out right now, and so I think we're probably almost due for a reprint. Okay. Many of you who watched and who have been following the saga of my FOMO know about this book. It is a book called Gogor. Yeah, you didn't get the last copies. I found one more. So this is an image series by Ken Garing that I read many years ago. I think I covered it when I first did like my pilot of Pull List in like 2020 or 2021 or something like that. And it is a fantasy, I would call it all ages book that to me is really similar to Bone. So if you really love Bone, I really think you would like this. It's about this boy in this fantasy world who kind of befriends and somewhat controls this Swamp Thing type thing and their adventures through the world. The cartooning is gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. The adventures are so interesting, and it just stuck with me. Like, sometimes I'll read an indie series, and I don't tend to reread a lot in digital unless I'm going to, like, reread the whole thing. But if it's a book that I kind of want to just get down from the shelf and, like, read an issue of every so often, that's when I tend to want things physically. And I kind of just had it in my cart for years and years. It was one of these Image Firsts, although it wasn't $9. It was $16.99. And I was like, you know what? I'll throw it in eventually when I need, like, one more book to fill out the weight, because it's, like, very, very light. So I finally, after the FOMO haul, it was on my FOMO haul, and part of the reason I had not gone through with it all that time is that it kind of just ends abruptly. It did not get extended to more issues, and the author, Ken Garing, actually did a second book to finish it called The Book of Gogor, and he kickstarted it, but it was only available in the United States to kickstart. And then he was selling it on his website, but he would only ship it to the United States. So I kept putting it off and being like, well, I don't want to get this one physically because then I can't have the continuation physically. By the way, there's no digital version of that. Finally, after my FOMO stream, I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy the Book of Gogor America Only version. I'm going to send it to Omar, and he will just send me a package at some point when he accumulates enough stuff for me. And then I'll finally buy this first one. So I had a big order. They needed an extra book. I put it in the book. Everything seemed well. Then I got the dreaded email that appears to be out of stock at the distributor. And you know why that happened? Because between when I had my FOMO show and when I ordered it, 3 people from my show went on IST and bought it, and they ran out. And I know this because they posted their hauls on Your Mint Conditions Discord. And I was like, you literally FOMO'd my FOMO book right out from under me. So this actually I wound up buying from my comic book shop, who does pretty decent international shipping, and they really, I find, can be trusted for the conditions of the book. This is absolutely beautiful, except for it has the tiniest little impression. You can see it right there on the cover, which I do not care about. So I'm so happy to finally have it. Do I have the other half of it yet? No, that's still with Omar in the United States. Pidima is here. Quetzal Gaming Network says, Bone is my childhood, so you might actually really like it. Another BQ says, Bone was my first ever comic purchase. Again, people who really, really like Gogor, or like Bone, are probably going to like Gogor. Goody saying, congrats, I got my white whale. I mean, like, what a goofy white whale, right? This, like, single image book. But here's the thing. It feels like over time, I've maybe convinced 10 of you to read this book. And even if half of you wind up liking it, then that's why I have this channel. Right? Like, I don't just have it to sit here and be like, look at all my books. No, I have a broad, vast, deep love of comic books, and what I'm trying to do is get you to always find new things that you haven't heard before, which is hard because some of you are very, very widely read. J. Tiffany saying, wait, reading? This isn't a statue hall? And I have to say hello to Larry's Library channel and a person who I really, really appreciate. And I hope that my new podcast endeavor, which is launching soon, might give me a chance to hang out with people like Larry, in addition to hanging out with people like One Wheelchair X, who is one of the rare guests on my actual channel. Quick Kiwi Comics saying, I need an Omar in my life to hold stuff and send it to me. Postage is killer. Here's the thing. Omar doesn't know that he's the Omar in my life in that capacity. I mean, he knows he's the Omar in my life, but I basically messaged him to be like, you're going to be receiving some things. He's never sent me mail before. We do not have that kind of relationship generally. I was like, you're going to be receiving some things, because it all started with the Weapon X Omnibus, and most of you have already heard this lore. But I tried 3 times on eBay to send myself the Weapon X the Return Omnibus, and it in every case bounced back to the sender from the eBay International Hub, and we eventually surmised, the senders and I and Omar, that, and I forget, maybe Max, a few people put our heads together, and we surmised that it's either because it had weapon in the title and the automated systems are like, you can't ship weapons to New Zealand, or it has the return in the title, and so it's immediately getting flagged as a return. So that's one of the few X-Men omnibuses that I'm legitimately missing. So finally I was like, well, I think the only way to get it is to send it to Omar. And then once I sent that to Omar, I'm like, well, if you're going to be putting a box together for me anyway, I kind of voluntold him that he would be doing it. Okay, here's another indie series that I really, really love, which is Grendel. Now, if you watched my Polist Survivor show a couple of weeks ago, you know that there's a currently running Grendel miniseries, which is like a third in a trilogy. I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head. That is the return of Grendel to Earth. Now, Grendel is a fascinating character. There are hundreds and hundreds of pages to read of this Matt Wagner creation, who starts out as this very kind of romantic, kind of like assassin. I can't even explain it, on Earth, and then then it becomes a whole plot, and then there's a whole society of Grendels, and then he's a cyborg, and then it's the future, and then he goes to space. It's really one of the longest running kind of single character soap operas that we've got in comics right now. I would compare it to Hellboy, and the character has gone through similar transformations to Hellboy, and it's super, super fascinating. So I had never read the old Grendel, and I came in one before this. I always forget what the first one was called before this, and it's not available on my shelf right now. And I read it just to be like, oh, I guess I'll finally check out this Grendel thing, and I was obsessed. I absolutely loved it. It was about him going from planet to planet, trying to find a planet that would be repopulable and failing. And then he finally comes back to Earth. And so that was this one. So I caught up on this a few weeks ago to get up to the present day, and you can hear me talking about it, and I absolutely loved it. He's back on Earth, and on Earth he's discovering that Grendels have... Oh, I just showed some naughty things in that page. Shh, don't tell YouTube. We'll get to that in a second. And he discovers that Grendels are very much hated on Earth. And he's like, why? What happened? And he's the OG. He's the original Grendel. And it turns out that like all these crazy vampires have taken over Earth, and now there's like a Grendel resistance who's fighting against them. I was just totally taken with this book. And to the point of the naughty images that I briefly showed, it has such an equal opportunity view on like nudity and gender. It's like everybody's nude. There's every combination of gender and gendered parts. there's not violence towards anyone gender. There's violence towards everybody. And I was just like, this is everything I like in like a very strange sci-fi epic. So I have all of the old paperback Dark Horse Omnibus of Grendel. So I was like, oh, well, I think we at this point are committed to having a full Grendel shelf, because it's one of these stories that even though it's been around forever, it's like continuing into the present. Thank you, Dr. Zero, and hello to you. That was called Devil's Odyssey. I think Devil's Odyssey is a great, great, great place to pick up Grendel. I think you absolutely can just start with Devil's Odyssey and be totally, totally satisfied. I need to make a full Grendel reading order because I think I might be missing something between the end of the paperback omnibuses and that Devil's Odyssey, and I don't know. But I do know that Devil's Odyssey goes right to this, Devil's Crucible, and then this goes to the current one. While I was ordering that, I also picked up this Grendel Devil by the Deed Masters Edition. So this is like the original Hunter Rose Grendel story that started everything Grendel. These editions, by the way, are really satisfying to behold. They're just a wrapped hardcover. They're all Dark Horse. They're standard size. I love it, and it's not super, super soft touch. That soft touch that starts to eventually kind of get like a little sticky and peel. It's just like a nice, flat, matte paper that just has a little bit of shine to it, but I mean, I guess we could call it shine. I wouldn't call it a shiny paper. But anyway, I have this in the omnibus, but this is like a slightly revised and remastered and kind of resequenced appearance, and I have to be careful what I show to you because it certainly has some stuff. So here's like an early iconic page of Grendel, and again, here he's kind of just this like ninja, this romantic ninja assassin. So think about reading this whole sequence of books that goes all the way from this all the way to him being spacefaring. So I just wanted this because it was this this remastered edition, and honestly I wasn't quite sure if the paperback omnibuses had the remastered version. I don't think they do because they were issued before that came out. Okay, let's see what everybody's been saying, and then we'll do yo, 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 it's FOMO, saying Josh Onlines. Sometimes it takes me a while. Alan and Cedric saying a great all ages title for fans of Bone is Bjorn the Littlest Viking by Ben Bender from Red 5 Comics. I often love stuff from Red 5 Comics. Superdrop saying Bone is also one of the first compendiums ever. I kind of count Cerebrus as compendiums too. Cider and Sage saying always nice to find cute new things to read. Gogor seems like a great read. Good luck finding a copy of that trade though. Larry's Library saying something. Oh, the podcast sounds intriguing. Richard Fearing saying hello to everybody and my hello to you. I guess this has nothing to do with Beowulf. No, and that I think kept me away from it for many years. Not that I don't like Beowulf, but I was like, is this just like some spin on Beowulf? But it's not necessarily. And Goody loves Grendel, and the Fingler, I think here only for his second week, saying, I hope it didn't miss any point important in the last 13 minutes. Nothing super important. Cider and Sage thinks Grendel is a gem. The great taste. We love when new people come in, they have great taste. And Planet saying, I'm barely scratching the surface of Grendel, and I accept that. I've only ever read the first paperback omnibus and then the new stuff, so I have a wide gulf. Richard Fearing has been curious about it for years. Kiwi Comics, I always want to say Quickie Comics because I'm transposing the W and the I, has Batman Grendel on his shelf. Dr. Zero saying after the fourth Grendel omnibus, it's the second Batman Grendel, then nothing for decades, and then Devil's Odyssey. Oh, well, then I'm not missing anything then. Great. And Dylan D. Doherty saying, I hope I'm doing well, and drop the lip combo. Oh, I mean, we all know that I do aspire to be a makeup influencer, and one day my makeup will be good enough that I will be a makeup influencer, but no, I did not write down my lip color, and it is several rooms away at this point, but we're always trying new things, and we can talk about more. That is the kind of thing we can talk about on the after show. Okay, I know that I have a specific group of books that I want to talk about next. I am wearing pants, so don't worry about me standing up, because I'm wearing pants. Okay, so as I mentioned with Gogor, sometimes I read an indie book and then years later I'm like, I could stand to reread that. And because indie is not as consistently available on digital all-you-can-eat platforms, and I don't love buying things digital, I'll buy new books digital, but not old books digital, because I'm like, do I just want to own it? And this one really, really stuck with me. This is Greg Rucka's Whiteout. Now, these are digest size, so let's see them against Gogor. Digest size books. And this is Greg Rucka with Steve Lieber, who you might know from things. I think he's Deadly Foes of Spider-Man, right? Or the Nick Spencer series. And it's about this woman, well, I'll read you the back. You can't get any further down than the bottom of the world, Antarctica. Cold, desolate, nothing but ice and snow for miles and miles. Carrie Stetko is a U.S. Marshal, and she's made the ice her home. In its vastness, she's found a place where she can forget her troubled past and feel at peace until someone commits a murder in her jurisdiction. I absolutely love it. It is all in black and white. And it's, I mean, Lieber, even this far back, this is an old comic. This is was originally published in 1998. And Lieber, just the storytelling that he does in the black and white, in the snow. I'm trying to find like a really great snow page. This is like a great one. And because it's so kind of essential art-wise, I really felt like I didn't mind having it in a compact edition, effectively, a digest. I would love it if they put both of these, because there's also a sequel, Melt. If they would put them both out in like a nice library edition. Greg Rucka, I mean, people love Greg Rucka. I'm sure if they put it out in an oversized version, they would. Here's the thing. I ordered this from this US eBay store called Zuber. And Zuber's a bunch of goobers. I don't think I'll ever order from them again. All of the books randomly came with stickers on them without the listing saying that, which I do not like. At least these two stickers match, so I can just pretend it's part of the sign. It's fine. They sent me several books just in like those plain vinyl mailers, and the books got snapped in half in the mail stream, which I don't think is just because I'm in New Zealand. I just think that that's an inadequate mailer to put that kind of book in. Some of them didn't arrive at all, and some of them they just sent me totally the wrong book. Meanwhile, it cost me like $30, $40 US to get something shipped to New Zealand. So if I put in an order for 4 books from Zuber, I expect to get things in the condition that I want and not broken in half, and maybe with like one piece of cardboard on the other side of them, or maybe like check the books before you send them all the way to New Zealand. So I'm peeved. And I do not like leaving negative feedback for people, but I not only love negative feedback, I'm telling you all. So that's how peeved I am. But I did get these two, and stickers aside, they are in the condition that was promised. So Greg Rucka. Now, as these were in the mail, and they're things I've read before, and I knew that I liked, I was looking at the list of Rucka series, and I was like, oh, you know what I've never read, actually? Queen and Country, which is funny because a lot of people, that's like a favorite Rucka, and I realized how much Queen and Country there was. So I started like tentatively like, well, how has it been collected? What is the story there? And literally, just as I ordered those, as a complete coincidence, this is not a haul around the world, somebody who lives about 90 minutes from here said, hey, I'm just doing a downsize, I just don't want as many books in my house, and so they're all in good condition, and you know, I want to sell them. And on a New Zealand group posted the complete Queen and Country. These are also digest size. They're from Oni Press, and I had never read it before. Now, I've read at this point just about everything Greg Rucka, and I am obsessed with Greg Rucka. I mean, he's probably my third of my favorite comic writers, along with Kelly Thompson and Kieran Gillen. And so this was a steal. The other thing is, usually books in New Zealand are like so expensive. But you know, this guy was trying to send his books that he loved to a good home. And so I got in touch, and I was like, I could just drive up there and get him, but he put them in the mail, and they were here the next day. Sometimes New Zealand Postal Service is very reliable. So I don't know anything about this. I just know that everybody who knows that I like Greg Rucka is like, have you not read Queen and Country? So this is going on to the to be read pile, and I'm sure some of you know it, so some of you can tell me about it. And let me see what you've all been saying. Should I read Grendel's stuff from the start or start with the modern? I think Grendel from the start is a little overwhelming. Maybe if you just read the stuff that's this Devil's Deed, because it gives you a grounding, but it's almost like prose. Like, it's not a lot of traditional comic panels. It's like 2-page spreads just with these big blocks of prose, kind of very J.H. Williams-esque. So if you think you would enjoy that, I mean, there's no dialogue balloons, let's put it that way. So if you think you would enjoy that, maybe read that one. But if you want to read something that's more a traditional comic, I would just jump in with that the Devil's Odyssey. And the thing is, it's well established, I love the jumping in the middle aspect of comics. So I thought it was really fun to like leap in and be like, why is this guy in space? Why is he a cyborg? And then use that to motivate me going back and like being more interested in the old ones. This is a favorite question of people on the stream. This is the Iron Fist, The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu trade paperback, because it has his magazine content that is not in his Epic collection. I have a similar Black Widow Marvel team-up that has her team-ups that are not in the Epic collection. So every so often, Marvel puts out an omnibus that is like basically an Epic supplement. James Robinson has a great Grendel Tales story. Whiteout is so good. It's my fave of his early stuff. Cedric and Ellen saying Whiteout is fantastic. I love the movie. I don't even think I realized there was a movie. Hello to Omnibo, my friend from across the ditch, who must be having a very early morning if he is watching already. There's a Shadow Grease. I don't know, Andy, Oh, Grendel. Maybe Shadow Grendel. Steve Lieber just sent a cool sign drawing of Boomerang with a message to my local comic shop for promoting Superior Foes Trade. Great artists. Kubo saying this is great. And I love Kate Beckinsale. Wait, so there's a Whiteout movie with Kate Beckinsale? Or are we talking about Queen and Country now? Because this house, we love Kate Beckinsale. Chris Brogan chiming in to say, Zuber is terrible and I avoid them. William Lee saying, yeah, I would be pissed too. And Larry's Library has those same Queen and Country trade paperbacks. If there are paper stickers, I can remove them with lighter fluid. Do we really trust me with lighter fluid? Queen and Country, says Larry. Gosh, every time Larry comments, I'm like, oh, I really want to do a show with Larry. Okay, let's resolve that after this, I'm going to just send Larry a message and we're just going to start ideating. Because I've never gotten to do anything with Larry not on Near Mint, I don't think. And I love his videos. Like, if you want to, there are very few channels. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. I truly don't. I don't even get to watch like all the things on Near Mint Condition because I need to do all this. Like this content, this life, this house, the swimming, which I didn't even do last week. So it's rare that there is somebody who like I truly will watch everything they post. And it's Higgy Pop, who we all know I'm obsessed with, Larry, One Wheelchair X. I mean, and it's not to say I don't love all of my other friends and all of the other channels, but it's just like, Larry doesn't miss. Like, he doesn't just put up content to put up content, which some people do. I really try not to. Larry's stuff is just always entertaining, always informational. And I think I just like him so much personally that I'm like, oh, I could be hanging out with Larry, but what if what if I actually hung out with Larry and also liked his content? Amazing. Incredible. Okay, now you get to see the thing that broke my rules and pretty much personally broke me, and you know that this happened if you watch my FOMO stream, because it was number one. It is my hair twin, Kate Pride, here on the cover of Dawn of X, Volume 2. I mean, she's got a little bit more of a fringe, but the curls are definitely curling today, for sure. So I haven't opened this yet because we all know that I have read all of Krakoa. I really wasn't going to do it, and as I was putting the FOMO show together, and you know this lore, I think, already, a few things happened, including the announcement of the X of Swords hardcover, and I was like, oh, well, if there's going to be an X of Swords hardcover, then things are going to be a little bit easier to do. And I also just was thinking about how much I loved the beginning of Krakoa and like how much possibility there was, and I was and the idea of wanting to reread it and not wanting to like juggle a million different series of Marvel Unlimited to just have these bricks that have it in perfect order. And so when they announced that there was going to be a restock of this one, my plan was thrust into action. I have not decided if I'm going to buy it all in Omnibus yet. Clearly, my favorite stuff is at the end, Kieran Gillen and Al Ewing, but there's a lot of crap at the end, too. So I think I decided I'm at least going to get the omnibuses through the Hellfire Gala, which will be at the end of Reign Omnibus 2. And then after that, we shall just see what we see. But yeah, so this is the second. Now, this is basically prelude to X of Swords. A lot of the material in this kind of leads you into X of Swords, including New Mutants very much does. I would say that the beginning of Cable very much does. The X-Men issues by Hickman very much do. So if you just wanted a sampler platter of like what did Hoxpox lead to, then you just want the first one. But if you're like really invested and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm just going to collect through X of Swords, then you want this one. If you're not going to get X of Swords and you're like, I just don't know if you should keep buying the anthologies and this one in specific, because so much of this is just set up for X of Swords. A lot of it very, very good, but I just want you to understand what you're getting into. And by the way, so I haven't mentioned this yet because some of you will be watching this in the future and time will have no meaning for you, but if you are watching this live, this is the week of the 26th anniversary of Crushing Crisis. There's so much cool stuff I'm going to be doing on the channel this week. I'm going to be doing a solo anniversary stream. I'm going to be doing a big gang anniversary stream a week from this Sunday show, but I'm doing a few special things between here and there, including debuting a new kind of video that I did with Max that I'm mixing right now. And we are having a 5-year reunion of This Week in X. That is coming to you over the weekend, and it's going to be live, so you can interact with Harry and Freya and Tyler in real time. And we're going to talk about the end of Krakoa, which we never got to talk about back in the This Week in X days. So I'm so excited about that. Omni Rod saying, Rucka Lazarus is probably one of the best comics I've ever read. It is my favorite comic Full stop. All time, period. I would, if I had one comic to bring with me to a desert island that I was going to be stuck there for a whole year and I could only reread that comic series or even just one book, I would bring Lazarus. Hands down, legit. Matt H. getting here a little bit late. Andy Holcomb posted his message prematurely. I thought I removed him. He posted in time. I don't have to put the lighter fluid on fire. But yeah, but I'm so clumsy about things like that, that if you introduce lighter fluid into a situation, what are the chances? What? Oh no, the beautiful hair curl got stuck on my guitar. Okay. We almost lost my little precious baby. What are the chances that the lighter fluid is going to get everywhere? I'm not good at physical coordination of things. I'm not good at cutting things. I'm not good at all this. I mean, there was drama today. Have I read Stumptown by Rucka? No, another Rucka that I have not read. Gabriel Tobias saying that they've been meaning to check out Queen and Country. Dr. Zero uses rubbing alcohol for stickers. Rubbing alcohol can be really hard to come by in New Zealand. We'll have to pitch to my friends Sam and Wiccan and NZ Hawkstar and Kiwi Comics, like, to talk about that. But like some of those kind of drugstore, just the big things you can get, rubbing alcohol, and there's another one, hydrogen peroxide. Sometimes you just, I mean, you could get them here, but you can't get them in the like jugs that you could get them in the States. And Thomas Judge, lighter fluid to remove stickers is fraught with risk, can confirm. Oh boy, do we want to know the details? Okay, let's see. Larry's heading out. Please go subscribe to his channel. Truly, truly one of my favorites. Here's the thing, William Lee, about X of Swords. I am just somebody who likes a direct crossover. Like, that's because I'm from the 90s. So any crossover that's like a direct issue to issue, read it in this order crossover, I'm already there. Like, I'm already excited. And X of Swords, because it dug so deeply into like Otherworld stuff and Krakoa stuff and all the stuff about Araco and Limbo and all this stuff, it's just exactly the kind of plot stuff I like about X-Men. I don't like space X-Men. I don't like time travel X-Men. I like deep lore about mutants and the mutants' interaction with the world. So it just absolutely scratched my itch so hard. And apparently Whiteout was a movie with Kate Beckinsale, so that will be something that I will need to rewatch. Speed Demon saying, I've never read any X-Men, but the mapping of the anthology is making them tempting to pick up. I know I'm supposed to save some of this kind of chat for the after show, but I'm just very happy to see you all today. Okay, so many of you have ordered from this eBay store, Funaticals, who get closeout deals on things that are being liquidated by publishers. It's hard for me to make an order from them because the international shipping from them is just really expensive compared to everything else on eBay. However, they had a specific book that I needed that I could not find anywhere else, and they had it at a super cheap price. And it turned out when I did the math that if I put 2 omnibuses in my cart, it worked out better than just one. Now, I have made a prior order from them. That's how I got, I think, my Spider-Man 1999 book and my X-23 omnibus, which I finally brought downstairs to the main X-Men shelf. So this is my second Funaticals order. This is a book that I have every single issue. They are specifically bound in a short box to bind. It was actually going to be one of my first 5 binds, because it's a run that I was like, well, if it gets a little bit messed up, I'm not going to be upset, but I'll learn a lot by binding it in 2 books, because there's like a 25 issue series and a 35 issue series. And I've had it all these years. I think I picked it up in like 2012 or 2013, and I just never did my binding project. And I never in a million years thought that there would be an omnibus of Peter David's Captain Marvel. Now, here's the thing. I don't collect all 90s in omnibus. He's a non-X-Men character. It's not a whole subline like Marvel UK or 2099. This is quite specifically not an omnibus I am interested in owning. However, this has never been coherently collected in paperback, and for a long time I had faith that the Epic line was going to capture everything in paperback. But since they're not launching new Epics anymore, it got to a point where I'm like, oh, I don't know if we're going to get some of this stuff in Epic. So this wasn't even on the FOMO list, but when I was ordering the other book that I was ordering from Funaticals, I was like, this was like $20. And so even after the crazy shipping, it was well under cover price. And I know that I like this period. Now, this also makes me feel like, technically, although I don't collect Captain Marvel in Omnibus, I do have Carol Danvers in Omnibus. And if they were to ever do a Carol Danvers Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel, the Miss Marvel years Omnibus of the Brian Reed stuff, I would buy that. And so I guess I kind of like a little bit justified it to myself to be like, well, this would go next to that. But really, I mostly bought this because I do not think Marvel will ever collect this again like this. I don't think this is ever going to happen again. I don't think epics are going to get there now that unfortunately Peter David has passed away. Now that, you know, this character is not in use. I just don't see there being another opportunity. So I was like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And then I did it. Then I did it. Okay, FOMO strikes hard. I just ordered volume 3 of Superman Triangle. Oh, Kiwi Comics, those Triangle books are, they FOMO me so hard, and I think I finally convinced myself, actually, great segue, because something that was not particular of FOMO, but I wasn't sure that I was going to buy, and then I bought, is this. So this is Superman, The City of Tomorrow Compendium. Why do I say that this is a segue? Because this collects Superman comics that were happening... Oh, it doesn't have the triangles on the cover. But I do believe that this was towards the end of Triangle, right? Now I feel like I'm making this up. And so they've started to collect some Triangle in DC Finest, but a tactic that a lot of DC Comics collections have been taking lately is that they will start collecting from the end of something and from the beginning of something. So they're doing that with Bronze Age Wonder Woman. They're doing that with Bronze Age and 80s Batman. There's a lot of things where in one format they're collecting backwards, and in the case of those, they're collecting backwards in Finest. And then in another collection format, they're collecting forwards in those cases in Omnibus. And so I kind of like that idea, because if you're not super format adherent, it's a chance for you to have the whole run of something without waiting for them to get through it in one format. So with Superman, since I decided that I am not going to get the Triangle Omnibuses, I'm very, very eager to get as much of Triangle as I can in other formats. So Finest is going to take a long time to get there because the Finest are only about half as long as the Triangle Omnibus. This book at 1,000 pages is like 2/3 as long as the Triangle Omnibus. And this is, I did confirm in my mind, this is towards the end of the Triangle years, because this starts in December 1999. Triangle goes to 2001. So my hope is that DC is going to fill in this end run of the Triangle years of Superman in Compendium. They've just announced another in the 2027 announcements that I think is also going to help us fill that in. And then I'll continue collecting forward in DC Finest. And if they meet in the middle and I just switch from Finest to Compendium at some point, great. Now, I don't know a darn thing about this. I don't really know late 90s Superman. I know that it's written by Joe Kelly and Jeff Loeb. Jeff Loeb gives me some pause, but I generally like Joe Kelly. I know it's got a lot of great artists on it. And this, especially because it's by Doug Mahnke and Ed McGuinness, this is definitely a point where Superman just gets like really big and round and almost like cartoonish and very, very toyetic, because that is how Ed McGuinness draws. And just looking through it, this also has a little bit of the back half of Electric Blue Superman in it. And so I'm really excited to finally read it, but it's probably going to be years before I read it because I want to read all of Triangle. So this is really like an investment in them, hopefully, doing all of Triangle. Okay. Let's see. Gotta keep moving. Then we'll do some more comments. Okay. It's really not that many more books in this haul, they say. Let's see. What's the next? Okay. Oh. Speaking of books that we never thought I would own, this falls into the same category as those Captain Marvel books in that I really, truly in my heart thought that we would eventually get all this in a paperback format. It really, to me, it really seemed like it was going to always be the next epic line. Every time a new epic line was announced, I was like, why isn't it this one? Blade was announced, Ghost Rider was announced, but I just realized that like Marvel doesn't really have a lot of reason to print it, and I've heard through the grapevine that like all of these eventually the sales were soft, even though one of them did get reprinted, and so there's not really a lot of reason to go into another format, and that is New Warriors. And you will note that this is the DM cover, which I really had to put in some effort to get because screw that Scotty Young cover. Why would you make a goofy, cartoony Scotty Young cover the main cover of New Warriors? So this was very hard to acquire. But I decided if I could acquire this one with this main DM cover, because I just don't like the Scotty Young cover, that I would get this. Now, I know everything in this volume. This is the first volume, and it has New Warriors 1 through 26, Annuals 1 and 2, and some of the stuff that sets them up, including their initial appearance in Thor. So I already know I like that. And by the way, much like many of these things, I own it all in floppies. And I could bind it if I chose, but of course I would rather have the official Marvel version and then sell off the floppies. And again, I just always thought that they would do it in a complete paperback format. They did get to, like, I think almost halfway through the series in like a classic paperback format, and then they gave up because Epic Collections took over. So then once I got that, then I forgot which one of these was Funaticals and which was IST, but I have number 2 here. And this collects, oh my gosh, that's so small. Issues 27 through 53. And then I have, this was the IST, because it's the newest one. And this is such a fun, dynamic cover. Like, do I really care that Scarlet Spider is on the cover of New Warriors? Not incredibly, but just, I just really like the wow of all of these. And this collects through the end of the series to issue number 75. Now, there is a little bit more New Warriors that happens in 1999. They relaunched New Warriors as well as relaunching Nova. And I want to say that we haven't had a collection of that New Warriors. But you know what would know? The guide, the New Warriors Guide on Crushing Crisis, which is a public guide available to everyone. All right, let me get a couple more comments and then we will continue. James Moore ordered a damaged copy of that through IST, probably the Dawn of X, but hasn't shipped yet. I plan the line Omnis through Inferno, and then we'll just get the Gillen and Ewing omnibuses. A fine strategy. DC Crane saying collected Krakoa era is too much of a cost commitment for me. It is for me too. Always Instigator says hairdryer on low will help loosen the adhesive on most stickers, but the thing is I don't want there to be adhesive left over because then it like is tacky on the shelf, and that's no good. Super Drop Crisis is so clumsy the lighter fluid would spontaneously combust. Super Drop, stranger things have happened. Okay. Everybody's got all sorts of sticker commentary, which I will officially scroll through all of them when I rewatch this. Crisis, do I think my collection rules or ordering habits would be different if I still live in the States? 100%. I think I would probably buy more stuff in the States. I think here I've had to be really choosy, and this FOMO haul is one of the first times that I've really gotten to like unleash and be like, you know what, we're just doing it. We're doing it. Whereas I think in the States it's so easy to do that because when things are readily available and every book that's like slightly out of print you can find it for sale from somebody from some shop, then you don't have to make these hard choices. But when there's like a copy of that book that might ever ship to you, then things get a little bit harder to pick. The Captain Marvel Omni by Peter David is so good. The second half, it takes a really dark turn that will make me think long after I finish it. And Kubo is saying, I desperately need an epic collection of this run. Ellen and Cedric asking if it has the wizard half. Does it? Let's see. They do not detail all. Oh no, it's so small. Even with my glasses on, I don't think I could read it. It has the 0. I don't know if it has the wizard half, and I don't know if I cover all of that in my guide. So you'll have to wait for me to crack it open at some later point to answer that question. Rufio Hasman is the first time catching this live. How am I? Welcome to the stream. We love when new people come here. And just so you know, if you have questions that are not on the topic of the stream, we have an after show, and there's a link in the description, and you should get that link now, because as soon as the show ends, I take it out of the description. Okay, let's move the guitar so my hair doesn't get caught again. Okay, so this is one that it's not really a FOMO, but as I was looking through my FOMO list, I realized I had ordered this. Sometimes, does this ever happen to you? Or maybe is it just because I have this many books? You order something and you're like, I'm sure I bought that. I know I bought that. And then it like never arrives. And then you go back into your orders and you're like, oh, it got canceled. And that's what the case was with this book was. Like, I definitely for sure ordered it. And I just was like, I know I bought that. And I went through my DCBS orders, and sure enough, it was canceled. And since DCBS is like, you order things like 3 or 6 months ahead of time anyway, it's like, I hadn't even noticed it was canceled because it's not like an order that I made and I was like waiting for, like, so I was like, oh, and so I was making that my comic shop order that had Gogor in it. And I was like, oh, they have a copy and it's actually a super reasonable price. So this is not, it's not like it's out of print or anything. It's just something that I meant to have. Now, I have a certain number of properties that I am feral about. And then we're not talking about like X-Men, we're talking about like cross-media stuff. There's certain ones that I just will like always be interested in, I'll always like, and it's because they just hit at like certain significant times of my life. I'm sure you all have those. And for me, one of those is The Matrix. I can still remember seeing The Matrix in this beautiful theater that used to be on Chestnut Street in Philadelphia for the first time. I can think of seeing both the other movies. I used to have the Animatrix and I watched it all the time. I even really like Matrix Revolutions. I think it's a great movie. I think it's an amazing commentary. I'm in the tank for everything Matrix. Even though I didn't play the Matrix game, I still like followed the story of the game because it was official story. So when they announced this collection of all of the Matrix comics, I was like, hell yes. I didn't even know that they existed. So to get them all in one oversized hardcover, I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely want that. Because I love the story of the Matrix. I mean, talk about something where I could just get lost rereading wikis and like going over the facts again and what are the timeline and how did things shit. Like I always will go down that particular rabbit hole and follow the white rabbit down it. And so this has a number of different Matrix stories compiled that were released in several different formats over the years. So they all have different artists, different writing. They're not like one big Matrix series. So this is really not for you if you're looking for like a comic adaptation of the Matrix or anything like that. This is more like the Animatrix, and that's a lot of people telling stories. And so here are some of the people who tell stories in this book. The Wachowskis tell stories in this book. Geoff Darrow does the art on that one. One with story and art by Bill Sienkiewicz. Oh, we gotta open to that one. Oh yeah, baby. Bill Sienkiewicz writing and drawing a Matrix story. So cool. Ted McKeever, Neil Gaiman, Dave Gibbons, Peter Bagg, David Lapham, Paul Chadwick. Yeah, so to say that I am hype for this, I think does not fully define for you how excited I am for this. And that's, I mean, Tim Sale does art for one. Oh my gosh, there's more. I was only reading one half of the table of contents. So here's all of it. You can like freeze frame. And oh, sorry, my lights are going to make that hard to do. How about there? Freeze and enhance. So it's just, I just was so bummed when I realized it got canceled, and I realized that like, I really wanted to read them. And that's another one, since they're all short stories, like, I don't know how to friggin' get them online. I don't know where they all are. I'd rather just pay $40 and have the book. So, okay. Here we go. Andrew Crimefighter tacking back to that Superman book. No, this is not post-triangle. It's you could be forgiven for thinking that, because a lot of these creators do still create post-triangle, including Joe Kelly and including Ed McGuinness. And that's why I'm so confused every time I pick up this book or look at this book or hear about this book, because I'm like, that's post-triangle, right? Because post-triangle, it's a really similar group of people working on it. But no, it is not post-triangle. It is towards the end of Triangle. Hank Hord's Comics is here late and putting together new shelves and unpacking all of my recent FOMO purchases, completing all of oversized TMNT from IDW. That was on my FOMO list, and I still was like, I don't think I'll reread it. Like, I really want to read it once in that perfect order, but I really just can't see myself rereading it multiple times, and so I didn't get on to the FOMO list. Omar is smiling somewhere because Omar is always smiling. I showed him that I bought that New Warriors book on a stream, and it was while I was off camera, and I said, don't put me on camera. And then what did Omar do? He put me on camera and showed it, because that was supposed to be exclusive to you, that reveal. I don't pre-reveal hauls elsewhere. Scotty Young cover, that's cover A. No thanks, I'll get the variant. Here's the thing, sometimes I don't despise Scotty Young. I think his art is really cool in many contexts, but to take like a classic 90s team with a classic 90s look like New Warriors and do like a Scotty Young cover for it, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand like why, just for marketing, right? Because some people would buy it just for the Scotty Young of it all. Is this one of my rules now? If it's only collected in omnibus, I should get it. Well, Yarn Balls, that is one of the rules that kind of drove a lot of the FOMO show. Like a lot of the stuff on the FOMO show is things I realized, because these shows, it's kind of like the order that I do them in is influencing my choices. So doing the Omnibus Fantasy Draft made me, and then doing the Epic Collection show made me realize how few Epic lines were opening, and that some things that I graded as niche, on the Omnibus poll or the Omnibus Fantasy Draft, like, were never going to become epics. And then I was like, oh, I should probably buy them. And so that, it's not that my rules changed. I mean, I guess they kind of did, like, the idea that I want all pre-2000s Marvel that I don't already have in collected edition, and if the only way to get it is Omnibus. If any of that came out in a standard size edition, like a trade or an epic or a compendium or whatever, New Warriors, Captain Marvel, those things will get jettisoned out of this house in a second. I don't want them in Omnibus. Like, I don't, for me, Omnibus is my X-Men format at Marvel. X-Men, Captain Marvel, that's really it. And then, and like 2000s events. Well, I guess all events, but I don't have any Captain America, any Iron Man, I think I used to have Avengers and I sold it. I really don't do Marvel Omnibus, which sounds funny if you were to see me in front of my other shelf, which is floor to ceiling Marvel Omnibus, but that's because it's all the X-Men Omnibuses. So hopefully that fully answers your questions about my rules. Eventually, I'm still going to do that rules stream. It just has not fit into the editorial calendar for the summer. Curious, what is the most expensive shipping for a book or an item? That's an after show question. Broad questions. I got to draw the line somewhere. Broad questions. Head to the after show. And James pointing out that is in the description. Okay. This is one I was actually excited to get for that same reason. And that, like, do I want an oversized version of these characters? No, I am not interested in the least. But this omnibus has tons of stuff that has never been collected, something other than omnibus, and it's really in the perfect order. Like, there's very little I would insert, and I will say that good mapping, to me, is always an attractive reason to buy a collected edition that I don't already have. So this was another one that I had in my IST cart forever, and then it was on sale, and I still didn't get it, and then I had to spend a lot of money to get it shipped here. Yes, I've learned my lesson. Yes, I'm going to be more proactive about buying things in the future, but a lot of this FOMO stuff was, like, catching up. And so it's this. It is The Eternals. Now, this book, if you're looking for like a totally amazingly mapped Marvel book that has everything of a certain group of characters from the 70s and on, Marvel's done that a few times. This book has them all the way to 2000s. I truly would not add anything. This mapping is extraordinary. Another book like this is the Squadron Supremes Expanded Omnibus. That is like a very complete omnibus. And because they appear in so many different series, it's kind of fun to have them all in one place there. Another one is the Expanded Captain Britain Omnibus, where they put the original 2 oversized hardcovers in with all the Alan Moore and Alan Davis stuff. That one is truly every Captain Britain story there is up until the start of Excalibur. So I love when Marvel does that. I think another one you could name is the Blade Omnibus, but because I have all of Tomb of Dracula already, the Blade Omnibus was like less attractive to me because it pretty much collected all of his appearances in Tomb of Dracula and some other stuff. I'm much more interested in like a 90s Blade collection, but now they're doing that in Epic Collection, one of the few things that have. So I realized once the Eternals movie kind of flopped, let's be honest, that this was never going to get an Epic collection, and it wouldn't take long. I mean, it would be like not even 3 epics, probably 3 epics to get through all this material, and so I was kind of skipping out on it at the time. Yeah, the story material, somebody's ringing the doorbell, which could be the delivery of a book. So after these messages, we'll be right back, because I don't want to miss a book. What if it's a book? Then I'll have real FOMO. It was books. It was books. But it's not books that I already have done research. Oh my gosh. It was books. It was books. It's not books that I've already opened or done research on, and so we're not going to add them to this. I think we have plenty to get through. So the next haul has already begun. Okay. And the hair still looks great. Okay. So back to Eternals. We're looking at page numbers. There's less than 1,000 pages of story, so this could be 2 epic collections. Like, it could be done if anyone cared. So this has all of the original Jack Kirby 1976-1977 series. Then it has what, for me, I think is a little remembered 1990s series as well. That was actually a 12-issue limited series. Like, it was seen as a big deal to bring them back with Sal Buscema on art. It's often forgotten. And so that's the main stuff in this omnibus. And then it has a few of their stories from Iron Man and from Avengers. And then it also has a pair of original graphic novels. So it's not so hard to get all this. In fact, I do have it all. And I think I have that 1985 series in floppies. But this was a really great way to get it all in one place. And I do like when things are mapped perfectly. And there's really nothing I would particularly change about that map. Speed's even saying this haul is so big, it's getting bigger as we stream. The delivery man better not move. We're doing it live. Okay, I'm so behind on comments because you're all just so overwhelmingly kind, and I had not the best of all weekends, I must admit. And so it's really nice to arrive here to your overwhelming kindness. Okay. Don't have FOMO about Eternals or New Wars, so I saved money. Okay, we're getting towards the bottom of the stack here. So here's, I know you know that the X-Men book was very much like a, why did I do this? What have I done? Am I really going to buy Krakoa now? But for me, this book is actually much more of a like, what the hell are you doing kind of purchase? Because I do buy modern indie, and I do have certain authors that I buy in premium formats. Like I have all of the Lazarus premium formats books. But Lazarus is my favorite comic book of all time, and I'm obsessed with Greg Rucka. And so I don't necessarily buy a lot of brand new modern indie because often I've already bought it in digital to read it to begin with, since it doesn't have like an all-you-can-eat platform like Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe Infinite. So it's kind of like, what, like, why would I buy that physically when I already have a digital copy of it? I don't win any prizes for spending money on it a second time. And this is a series I don't even 100% love. Like, it is not my favorite series. But I eventually, it was on the FOMO list, and it is one of my 3 favorite creators. And the format, there's certain formats that just trigger my FOMO harder than others. So I have Once and Future by Boom, by Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora, and Tamara Bonvilla's baby. They're Slipcases, baby. And if there's one format that I really like for a book that I probably wasn't going to buy, but then they get me, it's a slipcase. There's just something about it. I know there are just more things to dust on my shelf, but it's easier to dust the top of a slipcase than it is to dust the top of a page block, in my experience. So, and I just love them. I love sliding the books in and out of them. I love the build of them. I know how hard they are to do. It's really hard you have to know the exact dimensions of the book, and then you have to make a slipcase that the book is going to perfectly fit into. These are not standardized things. I mean, it would be one thing if you knew that every one of your books was going to come out as exactly 500 pages, but like, look at this. The second one is not the same dimensions of the first one. So you have to build a slipcase for a book. It is like a brand new production adventure every time, and I love that. These books, I mean, it's stunning. The presentation is stunning. And I do have some oversized Gillen, and will continue to buy oversized Gillen. I never bought Wicked and Divine oversized, which pains me every day, even though I don't like Wicked and Divine, but like, I'm like, but Gillen. But I do have oversized Phonogram. I absolutely will be buying oversized Power Fantasy whenever that exists. I have oversized Die. I am very committed to Kieran Gillen. So this series, if you've never read it, it's set in modern day England, and it is, I guess he's kind of like a British scholar, and also his particularly crazy grandmother. And it turns out that some of the creatures from Arthurian legend are real, and she is somebody who has knowledge of that and perhaps has done some hunting of them and perhaps has previously set him up in his lifetime to get pulled into what would happen if all these Arthurian things begin to return. One of my favorite things about this book is not just Dan Mora's art, but it is Tamara Bonvillain coloring Dan Mora's art. She takes, even though this is a very fantastical series, and she takes, I guess not even though, this is a very fantastical series, and even though it's set in the real world, she takes this absolutely wild neon approach to coloring it. And you know that I love impressionistic colors that are not necessarily the actual colors that something would be. And she never holds back. Like every, look at this rain, Pink Rain. Like, she always makes the most kind of stunning and impressionistic choice. And on Dan Mora's pencils, I think that's perfect. I don't want to see like grounded realism on Dan Mora's pencils. That I have zero interest in that. So I've read this whole series, and here's the thing. I do not dislike it by any stretch of the imagination. It's a very quick read, much like Something is Killing the Children. I do think the issues fly by. But my main kind of complaint or like judgment or reason that I thought maybe I wouldn't want to collect it is I don't know enough about the Arthurian legend. And those of you who've watched this channel a long time know that you've heard me do this before. I don't know enough about the Arthurian legend to like get all the jokes. Like Gillen is talking about all this like, well, in one version, the Green Knight this, and it's like, okay, sure. And I do think he gives you enough of the story to understand what he's talking about. But I just feel like if you know Arthur well, so much more of it will click. And so I've always felt like I really need like a nice version of Once and Future King by T.H. White, which Lance the Library has just finished. Hello to Lance the Library, one of my favorite people to chat with. And so I was like, oh, and I remember like reading it in high school and just like not being into it at all. But I do love the Arthurian legend. And I'm like, now that I'm an adult, we like many things now that we're adults that we didn't like in high school, like broccoli, I don't know. And so I was like, oh, you know, maybe I'll get like a really nice Folio Society or like illuminated text hardcover of Once and Future King and shelve it next to that. And maybe if I read Once and Future King, then I will appreciate Once and Future even more. And that was really my main complaint about it, that it read fast and that I didn't feel like I knew enough to understand all of the Arthurian stuff. Because I love the colors, I love the art, I love the writing, it's very funny. Like everything about it is really satisfying. I just like didn't feel like I knew enough. Okay, so that was my reason. Madigan would love an oversized slipcase of bone. Chris Bergen liked the first volume, but the second kind of petered out for me. Richard Fearing, however, thought it was an awesome read, and Garner Pauls thought I loved Wicked and Divine. No, I don't. Here's the thing. I've never read the whole thing, so maybe if I could stick with it, I would, but I've read the first 2 trades, I think 3 times, and every time I rage quit. Like, I almost throw the book across the room, rage quit. And every time, and then I go back, and I'm like, that was last time. You're a different person now. You're more patient. You love Gillen even more. You're going to like it this time. And then I still rage quit. There's just something about Wicked and Divine that I do not like the concept. It's not that it's written badly. I love J.V. McKelvey's art, but there's something about it that I just, in my soul, dislike. Okay, there's only 3 more things left in this haul, but the thing is none of them are just one thing, but it's actually going to move pretty quickly. Actually, 4. So, I had water damage, which is the worst nightmare when you have more than 30,000 comics in short boxes. And I know exactly how it happened, and it was my fault, and I could have planned better. And luckily, usually all of my boxes are really, really well itemized and stacked and protected. And then even within the box, I often have things in bags and boards, so even if a little bit of dampness got in, I only had to chuck the box, and I didn't have to chuck anything in the box. Only 3, and then boxes themselves, short boxes themselves, actually are quite defensive against that sort of thing. They're meant to absorb damage and all sorts of things, you know, impact, dirt, dust, and a little bit of water. But then you got to throw the box away so it doesn't get mildewy. And I ultimately only lost about, I don't know, less than 10 books, many of which is inconsequential. A couple of them kind of peeved me out, and that I lost them. And some of them are probably not going to be replaceable, but none of them were like the jewels of my collections. They wouldn't have been in the short box stacks if that was the case. However, the one box that I was really annoyed that it hit is I had all of Ed Brubaker's Captain America, including the complete collection recollections of the beginning, and just because of the direction the water got absorbed, the beginning of my Ed Brubaker run got a little bit damp, and I was like, I probably shouldn't keep these books because they're probably like at risk to be mildewed. So I know that there's Epic Collections, but here's the thing. Epic Collection 1, I am sure this is a restock. I think if we look in this, it's going to say second printing, because oh gosh, it's so small, I'm never going to be able to see it. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Printing. I can't. It's too small. And this is not just me being old. It is really, really small. Anyway, this had gone away for a while. No, this says first printing. But it went away for a while. I guess maybe it just like they found some extra stock somewhere. But I love this run. I love Winter Soldier Captain America. I know it extremely, extremely well. So I found this one, and then I got this one, Volume 3, as it was coming out. Volume 2, however, right now is $100 on eBay. I am not going to spend $100 for a book that I already own and love and that my dumb ass let get wet in my garage. I'm not spending $100 I believe. I could be mistaken. But I love that run. It's just a shame, like, of all of the modern epics, if there's one that they should keep in print continuously, you would think that it would be Ed Brubaker Captain America. Like, it's crazy to me that can't be absolutely kept in print at all times. But there you go. Some people talking about The Mist of Avalon. I know that author got really like mega canceled, right? I don't even know why. But it doesn't change my love for that book. And I don't remember any problematic scenes in that book. I absolutely read that when I was in high school, and I'm sure there is at least one copy, if not two, in this house. Okay, now we're down to just 3 things left. And they're all, these are all eye roll level things. I don't even know which one to do first. I'm going to start, actually no, maybe just one of them is an eye roll thing. So we'll do an eye roll sandwich. So this is something that's never going to be collected better. And the reason I didn't even buy it originally, because I really did want it originally, is I felt like it was missing something. And if there's one thing that does attract me to buying something, which is something that's perfectly mapped, the thing that immediately makes me not want to buy something is if I feel like something is mapped badly or skips around. Because I'm like, why would I buy that? Eventually there will be a version that doesn't skip around. However, as I've worked on the omnibus polls over the years, I realized that this doesn't actually truly skip around. It just skips something in the middle, more or less. And so the thing I'm talking about is the Golden Age Sub-Mariner Omnibuses. Now, I am not a big Golden Age reader, but having Golden Age Wonder Woman made me realize that I do have certain things that I have a Golden Age interest in, and I love that DC Finest is covering the Golden Age too, but Marvel does not do that in paperback. And the Golden Age Marvel Masterworks are long since gone. And so when they occasionally put something out in Golden Age, you probably should get it. Now, if there's a few things left on my FOMO list that I haven't bought because I just haven't found a good deal yet, it's the Golden Age Capped Omnibuses and the Golden Age Marvel Comics Omnibuses. But Namor was part of that sextet of things. And part of the reason I never picked this up to begin with is this one is called the pre-war years, and this one is called the post-war years. And I didn't really grok originally that meant that there's one in the middle that's going to be the war years. So all I saw was that this one collected Sub-Mariner stories from Marvel Mystery Comics 2 to 31, The Human Torch 2 to 6, Sub-Mariner Comics 1 to 4. And I was like, okay. And then I looked at this one, and it said it collected stories from Sub-Mariner Comics 21 and on, and Marvel Mystery Comics 84 and on. And I was like, well, we skipped years. Yeah, you know what years we skipped? The war, because this is the pre-war and this is the post-war, and the war are the years we skipped. But I just somehow didn't understand that. And so when we were doing the Tiger Eyes poll, I kept being like, well, we need another Namor book that maps through all of it. And finally, this is why I don't do the polls by myself the way that I do CK stuff, because the polls are meant to be like a definitive approach to these things. And sometimes one person can't make something definitive. So finally, somebody, I forget who, could have been Brandon, could have been Tiger Eyes, was like, Crisis, the books just skip the warriors. We don't need to recollect. The first book's a fine collection. We just need a war years book. And so I have these finally. And I think the reason that they skipped it is Bill Everett, I guess, went to war. Some of you know this information way better than I do. And so he doesn't do the stuff in the middle. These books are so attractive. Like, I love this trade dress format. This is an oversized hardcover. Like, it's not an omnibus. Come on. Who are we kidding? That's not an omnibus. But they're so attractive. I actually almost got the alternate covers because they are also gorgeous. But I was like, actually, if Marvel were to ever do any other Golden Age stuff in this same format, and I know they did a few other ones, I would want these because I just love this 2-color version. So this one feels more omnibus-y. But yeah, I absolutely am probably going to buy the Cap books as well. I don't think we're going to get a lot of other shots at getting Golden Age in a nice, complete format at Marvel. I think DC respects their Golden Age because it's the foundations of their universe and it's still relevant to them and their sales interest. And so there's always going to be another crack at getting DC Golden Age. They reprinted Golden Age Superman, they're reprinting Golden Age Batman and Golden Age Wonder Woman. We just need that Golden Age Flash and that Golden Age Green Lantern. But I think at DC, you're always going to get another turn at bat to get their Golden Age stuff, even as, nobody's I mean, not many people are particularly alive that read those comics originally, or even have specific nostalgia for like hunting for those comics in their youth, but there's still a fascination with them. It's just not the case at Marvel. And so I think at Marvel, if you like Marvel Golden Age stuff, you got to take it where you can get it. Now, would Marvel potentially subcontract that to some other publisher and then make find a way to profit off of it, like Clover, like Dark Horse, like Fantagraphics? Maybe, because Fantagraphics is doing really well with all of the Atlas era stuff. But there's just no way to know if we're ever going to get to that world. And so I just decided after the FOMO stream, like I was not comfortable waiting and potentially never getting those books, that now was the time. Regarding a Namor Warriors Omni, as my brother James previously puts it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. No. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I probably ought to get the Burgos Human Torch and Simon Kirby. I don't. So here's the thing, Andy, and you are the master of this. Speaking of people I should do some kind of collaboration with, so you should tell me. My impression of the Simon Kirby non-Captain America book is that was truly non-sequential. It's just random Simon Kirby stories from places. That kind of book I do not want. Like, it will drive me crazy, even if the material is great. But the Human Torch book is on my list of things that I probably would like to get. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Jason L. Wright, did I hear you say Lazarus was my favorite series? Did we just become best friends? Quite possibly. We quite possibly became best friends. It happens all the time to me. So look, I only have two other things. I said I would put the eye roll thing in the middle. Now, here's the thing. I knew even at the time these comics were not good, okay? And since then, has the creator been canceled? Maybe. I just have them because I never got to get all of them originally in the 90s. And this was a book that on my FOMO stream, we identified exactly how many copies were left and that they did not ship to New Zealand. And I thought, and we all thought, that I would be marked safe because I'm like, I'm not going to ask Omar to send those to me. I'm just going to accept that they're gone. But then I found somebody on eBay who had perfect copies of both of them. And he was like, I got them and I paged through them and I got my nostalgia fix and I don't need to keep them. So I corresponded with him to be like, hey, are you sure you're okay with shipping something this rare internationally? And he turned out to be the nicest person I have ever talked to on eBay. I mean, he told me the whole provenance of the books. He like asked if I wanted to see any specific pictures of the books of any, and then when he noticed one little like dot of glue on one of them, he sent me like an extra picture to be like, I know you're like a big collector. I'm not saying everybody has to behave like that on eBay. Like that would be crazy. And I'm not saying that we have to expect that, but when you're ordering pretty rare books and you're ordering them around the world to New Zealand, it's really nice to have somebody who pays close attention to everything about it. And that eBay seller was named Eagles0707. Are they a Philadelphia Eagles fan? I cannot say, but it seems like how cool a Philadelphia Eagles fan would be. And they have all sorts of stuff up right now. Some of it is quite expensive, but including that Matrix book, although it's again quite expensive, including a lot of other omnibuses, including some Silver and Golden Age DC. But now these two particular omnibuses are mine. And if you haven't guessed already, it is She. Now, She is about, oh, nice. I didn't notice that gold ink. See the gold in the frame? Not anywhere else though, just the frame. Not even in the logo. Why would you do that? So She is an omnibus about a woman warrior, and it does base itself off of some kind of like, how shall we say, historical texts about the art of war and warriors, but it also was very much just like a pinup book. And there is a story there, and I'm very excited to finally read it. I absolutely have the first issue of this down in the stacks, like for sure. This was just one of those things that I saw solicited, and I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna really like that, right? And the forward, by the way, is written by Chris Claremont. Why would you print a forward on this background that has a pattern on it? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, I mean, I think this must just be from a half issue because there's no cover. And I mean, let's just point out, she is fully naked. I'll show from far away so I don't get in trouble. Fully naked. To the point that like, nipples and all on the first page of the book. So that really tells you what you're getting into here. But it's also got like major 90s like Wildstorm Image kind of energy to it, to the art and to the story. And I really like that. That's what I grew up with. And the art stays pretty good throughout it. Now, this was a book that was constantly late. And so I eventually just like, I think it probably kept coming out by the time I was like done reading comics. And so I just never had all of it. And I've always been interested. And so this is one of those ones that even though I know that it's cringy and that it was probably pretty racist even to begin with, and maybe the creator's been canceled along the way, I don't care. I don't care. I just want to experience it for myself and have that memory. And that's fine. People can do that. But then he also did another Kickstarter-y thing for this other book, which is called She the Senraku Omnibus, which he's actually redoing on Zoop right now, but I think it's the exact same confident of this. And this was like $75, I want to say. It was a lot of money, and it's really small. But this person had both of them, so I was like, oh, that's perfect. And so this is a book that is, I'll just read you the back. The 36 Stratagems of the Art of War. That's what Senraku is. Over a quarter of a century ago, the greatest independent and mainstream comic book artists came together for an epic and original graphic novel experience the industry had never seen before. It features classic 36 stratagems, all illustrated by different artists, and then these have been rescanned and remastered, and there's some never before published artwork that is in this as well. So this is not a storybook. This is pretty much like an art pinup book, and I typically would not care, but since it was available in the same order as the other book, I went for it. Yeah, I truly don't really see any point in art books. Somebody at one point got me like a coffee table book of like the greatest images of David Bowie. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? Like, I guess maybe I'm going to take it off the shelf and look at it like once a decade. But like, if they're just pictures, I can just look at them on the internet. Like which is funny because we're talking about comic books, which are also pictures that we could just look at on the internet. But I just don't see an appeal to art books personally. I don't have any hate in my heart for you if you do. I just don't. So yeah, it was multiple different books that got released. So I guess this was on like multiple. And so a lot of times this has the original scans. Oh, and it has little bios. So Jim Lee did one. So it has like a bio of Jim Lee. Okay. So it definitely adds some allure to the collection. Is this the Jim Lee? This doesn't look like Jim Lee. Oh, no, there it is. Jim Lee. Must be inked by somebody else. Or maybe he inked it. Because the lines are a little rough for Jim Lee for this period. So, I mean, I'll enjoy looking through it, but there's not an ounce of story. Not an ounce. I mean, Mark Silvestri. Ooh, I keep seeing this really cool one. Is it Sinkovich? I think it's Sinkovich. Is it? It looks like it. No, Jay Lee. Wow. So anyway, I do not suggest you get these books. And again, there is no story in this book. Ellen and Cedric love art books. DC Crane loves art books. Mr. Tex, have I seen the Top Cow art book? Probably, but then I ignored it because I don't like art books. So they're not reprinting the normal She Series zombies. Not in that Zoop campaign. He's still in stock on his website. Last time I looked, though. Senraku has art by George Perez, Don Sakai. Very, very cool. Do I have the 30th anniversary issue #1 book? No, I didn't have anything other than the stuff like from the original release of She. So I'm down to one last thing in this haul. So this is one of my shortest streams all time. So we'll have a nice lengthy after party because honestly, I'm obsessed with this hair and makeup today the more I look at it. So we'll keep talking. So this is a book that doesn't quite break my rule because I read some of it. And much like Grendel, I kind of started in the middle. Well, start at the end, really. I read the most recent series last year, and it was one of my top 20 series of the year. And a particular someone named Bunkmaster B has been on my case to read this ever since we did the books that we would find essential evergreens for a library shelf, I think 2 years ago in near mint condition. And I've always like, yeah, I have an endless list. It was like low on the list. And then I finally read this one modern series of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I understand now why this is so great. So this is all of it except for one book, which is going to be getting here later this week, but I decided since it's pretty much a complete collection and that one book is like a side series that I wanted to show it all off all at once. So this is the complete -1, as far as I know, in publishing order, Shelf of Mouseguard. So Mouseguard, if you're a fan of Secret of Nim, it's certainly of a similar idea of that, is that there's this community of, oh wow, this, I don't, So I'm pretty sure I got this from my comic shop. Sorry, the ADHD is strong. This is a perfect sized comic book bag for square hardcover. Where do you even get such a thing? It's not like full, you know, sometimes you get a comic bag that's that shape and it's like folded over or taped, but this is, and it's self-adhesive. I didn't even know that existed. So these have been done in soft cover, but it took a little minor amount of tracking down to get the hardcovers. This is one of those ones that in the States you would not have that much of a problem with, except for one of them is very hard to find, but most of the hardcovers you could just get. And so this is about this little society of mice that, and they're drawn very realistically, which is one of the things I really enjoy about them. They're not like they're anthropomorphized in that they're standing up and they're wearing clothes. But like, if you look at their facial features and their fingers and stuff, they're mice. Like there's nothing to disguise that they're mice, and that's the case with all of the animals in the book. They're very just that animal. And so much like The Secret of Nim, this kind of supposes that there's this whole society of these mice and these whole sequence of villages. And this first one, which I've never read, I've only read that most recent series, follows them through the fall of 1152. Is that 1152 our years, our time? I have no idea. So originally, and this was a little confusing, and I made a little mini mouse guard guide just for myself, and if it would be helpful for you, I am super, super happy to complete it and put it on Crushing Crisis. It's like with these indie books, it's like, does anybody else need a mouse guard guide, or am I the only one who is that crazy? But I made a little mouse guard guide so I could tell what all the books were, because I was having trouble because they're not numbered sequentially. So there's Mouse Guard Fall of 1152. That's the first book. Then there is Mouse Guard Winter of 1152, which I thought could be the first book, because, you know, winter's on both sides of the year if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. But no, this is the second book, okay? So then there's a series of other Mouse Guard series, and the first things they did was they did a Legends of the Guard series here. And these are all square, by the way. All of them are square. And so this kind of fills out the story of the Mouse Guard a little more. Again, I have not read all of these. I'm so excited to read them. It's been on my list for a while, and I decided I was just something that I wanted physically. But then there are more volumes of Legends of the Guard. But before they continued to do more Legends of the Guard, they just want to make sure it doesn't slide away. Okay, they do this story that's actually, I think, the biggest of all the hardcovers. The Black Axe. Now, the book that I read, which is the only one that does not have a dust jacket, and is possibly because it's so slim and it's the newest one, is The Dawn of the Black Axe, which tells the origin of this, but this is the newest one. This is the one that came out last year. So this is the prologue story of this book, of this mouse and this Black Axe. But this was the third one that came out, and clearly very significant if they later went to tell a prelude of it. And so then they did two other books of Legends, and the third one, this one, is kind of hard to come by, and I had to really hunt for it a little bit, and I paid probably more than I should have, but I was so close. I had all the other books. So then there's this other book. It's like Somebody the Brave and Other Stories. That's the one that I'm still waiting to arrive this week. And then this is the newest one, even though in sequence I think it's the oldest of the stories. It's the newest of the books. So I'm really excited, and I will say, I was just getting it for me. I was thinking, oh, maybe I can have like Bunk on the channel to read it with me or something at some point. And Kid Crisis saw on the couch, and she's like, what's that? And it's interesting because she, you know, she's a kid, but she doesn't necessarily always go for like anthropomorphized animal stories. But there was something about it, probably, I think just the form factor, that it was square. Like they just look very unusual, like really fun artifacts, and they're just like, they almost look like children's books, right? Which is probably why they did them in this format. There's plenty of things. I have a huge shelf of children's storybooks downstairs. Oh, that would be really fun to look at one week. And this is a format that you might find some of them in, so she was immediately curious. But this book was so great. Like the facial acting of the mice, like just opening it up, I'm immediately transported back to why I decided I really wanted all of these, because I just found this absolutely entrancing, and I was like, okay, now I finally get it. So I'm really excited to sit down and read a lot of Mouse Guard. As you may have noticed, a lot of things in this haul are things I've either said I've been wanting to read for a long time, or that I was hoping to sit down and binge. It's almost as if I'm gearing up to do a lot more reading of not brand new stuff. Maybe. So that's it for this haul. Even though there's a whole nother box of books downstairs on my, right in my foyer that I could open right now, but we're not going to, because we're not trying to be overwhelming. And the thing is, I, again, do not endorse doing this. You don't get FOMO. Here's the thing. be realistic about the bounds of your collection, which we'll do a stream about eventually. And with the FOMO, ask yourself, why am I FOMO'd about it? Is it just because it looks cool? Could I just go and see it one time in person at a bookstore and that will kind of give it to me? One of the things on my FOMO list was the Dune books, the deluxes of the Dune adaptations. That was actually adaptation just of the first book of Dune, but in 3 parts, because they're slipcases, and I'm like, slipcases, and the books just looked lovely. And then I like looked at some interior art, and I like went to a store that had one, and I was like, they're fine. I love Dune. It's one of those things like The Matrix that I will like always show up and like read more Dune. But it just, after seeing them and understanding what was in them and seeing the interior art, I was like, that's not really a FOMO. I'm not fearing missing out anymore. I'm not going to regret not having it. It's a fine comic book that I would love to make time to read maybe 20 years from now, but it's not like driving me crazy. And I think the thing that we do, especially once we start to get behind, like I haven't read every page in all of these books. Once we start to get behind, it becomes less about like the thing we want to read next, which is a very logical thing to have FOMO about. And it starts to become about the thing that we might want to read in the future that we don't want to miss the chance of reading in the future. And that is where I am. And so sometimes the quickest way to kind of put a pin in that is to see it and to touch it and to hold it and be like, do I really think I'm going to read this in the future? And if the answer is no, then it comes off the FOMO list. So I knocked Dune off that way. I knocked off the IDW Turtles books that way. I was like, yeah, I love them, but I mostly love them because they're collected really well. I don't see me reading and rereading Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles is not one of those properties for me. Like I love Ninja Turtles, but it's not The Matrix. And so I think that it's really important that you don't just FOMO because you want more books. And again, I know this sounds crazy coming from me sitting where I'm sitting, but I really think it's important to be like, if you're going to FOMO why? FOMO because it's something that has to be in your collection. FOMO because you're like, you've always wanted to read it. FOMO because it's the next thing you want to read. FOMO because you're seeing it selling out and it matches something else in yourself. But don't just FOMO because it's a book and it might go away. There's a million books that might go away in the world. That's not enough. So that's my message. And I hate the ostentatity. I don't know what that word would be, but I don't like that aspect of this. I do this because I love to talk about new books with you all, and it continues the story of FOMO, but I'm never doing this to be like, look at all the books I hauled. That's never the goal. I know it just comes off that way because I do haul a lot of books. Last week at the end of the show, I said that one concrete good thing you can do in your community that's easy to do is to just look up a local food bank and look at how people with food insecurity in your community are dealing with that. So I'm super happy to announce that the video last week did crazy amazing numbers, really some of the best first week numbers any video has done this whole year in Crushing Crisis. And so I donated all of the first 48 hours of the advertising earnings of that, which was not insignificant, to my local food bank, the Wellington City Mission. So I would say to you, can you do something like that? And look, money is short for some people, time is short for some people, but like, can you offset? It's almost like soul offsets instead of carbon offsets. Can you offset to somebody who really does need something and their fear of missing out is like missing out on food on their table, a warm winter jacket for their kids? Can you pause your FOMO for a minute and do that? Because you know what? That advertising money could have bought me a fierce FOMO book that I'm still after, but I'm really happy that it's going to another use as well. And so I would challenge you this week. Last week I said, could you look up a local food insecurity network and like figure out what you could do? I still have that challenge out for you. If you've not Googled local food bank near me, just go and Google it as we're switching over to the after show. Easy thing to do. Or if you're watching this on replay, just open a new tab and do it. Super easy to do. But the next thing I would challenge you to do, one of my favorite charities, is there a charity locally for you that just is like warm clothes for kids? I know for a lot of you it's summer right now, but almost in every community where I've ever lived, there's some charity that collects like jackets or like warm clothes or need like knitted hats and mittens for kids. Like if we're talking about FOMO and comic books, again, what do people really need that they're missing in the real world? And like food, kids should be warm. Like the idea that any kid would not have the best possible life and all the things that they want and be safe and comfortable and warm and not hungry, I don't deal well with that idea. And so even though I know I probably could have given all the money for all of these books to kids and probably should have, I try to find the time to look up those charities and see if there's some way to make a difference in them as well. So you know that there's always this little crisis communication at the end of the streams where I talk about something that really matters to me. And of course, my standard messages always still apply. Like if you're not helping the world fight transphobia, if you're not standing up for people of color in your life, if you're not standing up for queer people, for gay people, for women in your life, then like, what are you doing? But at the same time, it's like, sometimes it's hard to materialize that standing up. It's like, okay, here I am standing up for trans people, standing up for black people. Like I'm still standing. I hate Elton John. But like, what does that mean, right? And for you might not be the kind of person who wants to go out to a protest. You might be like, okay, well, I would stand up for a trans person if I had a trans person in my life, but I don't. And I totally get that. So sometimes it's good to look for things where you actually can make the kind of difference you want to make. Like, what's the thing you want to do? I have a family member who doesn't have a lot of money, but has a lot of time. And so she looked up a local like Meals on Wheels type operation and was like, oh, is there one day a week I could do deliveries for you? And that became how she got tied in. So I'm a really big believer in like, much like with books, much like with reading, you got to find the thing that works for you. And so much like finding the comic series that works for you, the way into X-Men that works for you, I think when it comes to defending people in this world and putting kindness out in this world and doing good deeds in this world, you got to find the version that works for you. And for some people, it's giving money. Sometimes people, it's giving time. Some people, it's spreading awareness. I'm sure there's something that works for you. So that's a lengthy Crisis Communications. We've got a short stream, and we're heading right after this, the after show. If you will be watching Crushing Crisis this week, it is the 26th anniversary of Crushing Crisis on August 26th of 2026. I'll be back so many more times this week. You're going to see a solo anniversary show from me. You're going to see a reunion of This Week in X. You're going to see a huge show with guests on the channel for the Sunday stream next week, and the debut of a new, not live show, although it may have a live premiere debut with me in the comments. But if you're watching this after the fact, hey, just thanks for watching. And just remember, please don't have a crisis unless, of course, it's me. Thank you all so much for watching.